Hey guys, I just wanted to share this particle filter project I was doing for this week. So basically, this is a way to localize, say, a robot in an unknown environment. This red glider simulates a glider that's got dropped over Mars, and it's over like terrain. So the only information that we have is its sensor readings of how far it is from the ground and its barometric pressure readings of how far it is from like sea level. So basically what we do is we create all these little black like simulated gliders, and at first they're actually all over the map. But then based on probability, we uh, we kind of trim them, like prune them, and kind of reintroduce them at the locations of the higher probability areas. So what the goal of this part two of this project is to bring the glider back to the origin at 0, 0, right? And to do so, basically the glider goes in a straight line until there's a relatively good confidence. So what I did was use standard deviation, and then I did root mean square error on on the on these particles basically. So once that reaches under a certain threshold, I begin the steering, right? So it kind of goes off screen right now, but because it like goes onto it. So once it's fairly confident of the location and heading direction, it'll start steering it. And the steering was pretty tricky to do, but I used basically the angles from all of these particles basically. This one takes a little bit. It gets confused because I guess the terrain is kind of like the same there, so it's not really sure where exactly the glider is. So what these black things sort of represent when you see like two nodes is that the glider could possibly be in any of these two directions. And I think a good example of this in real life is if, for example, I'm like, okay, on my left hand side, I see a stop sign, and then in front of me, I see a 7-Eleven, right? So those are two data points. And then that could place you in like maybe like a few areas around Vancouver where there's a 7-Eleven right after a stop sign. Like so then you'll have kind of clusters of like four possible locations that you could be, but then you can walk forward a little bit more and be like, oh, and then if I'm heading east, what I see now is a park. Well, you wouldn't know your heading directions, but you can be like, oh, in front of me is a park. So then now you might split it up into places where you have a stop sign, 7-Eleven, and a park, going in two different directions. So you might have like two clusters, and then over time, as you gain more and more information, you're more and more confident of where where it is. So that's basically what these are doing. So it basically trims out the ones where it's like, oh, after the 7-Eleven, I don't see a park, so you get pruned out. And then, but then every single time you kind of create a new set of particles um, based on the higher probability, and from there you do like kind of random. So here you always see that they're like a big cluster because there'll be like a little bit random, like spread out in case it's not clear, right? So it'll start at like the highest probability one, for example, and then it'll just kind of like scatter out. And then also I add a bit of a probability, like a Gaussian distribution on the heading direction. So every time the particle spawns, it actually like faces a slightly different way based on how you set it up. At first, actually, I had them all random always, and it kind of worked, but it got like really messy. But it actually helps a lot when you kind of keep them relatively like in the same direction, and then you kind of just tilt them off on the side. If you don't tilt them at all, it could really easily lose it. For example, all the particles could go like one way, and then the glider could go another way, and then you just completely lose the like localization. Yeah, so hope that was pretty cool to watch. I've been staring at that for hours, and it's kind of mesmerizing to watch. So I just wanted to show everyone. All right, thanks.